Hey dudes, Silvite Soltis back with another list for you today. Everyone knows that WoW Classic is all about the journey. Leveling to 60, doing dungeons with your friends, and raiding with your guild for hours at a time. But, of course, that's only part of the picture, isn't it? After all, isn't one of the biggest goals in any video game to be the best that you can possibly be? Well, I believe so, and I'm sure many of you agree with me. As such, I thought it would be fun to look at some of the most iconic loot that Classic has to offer. Of course, I've already made a top 5 tier sets list, and covered dungeon sets extensively. So, in this video, and a few more in the series that I have planned, I've decided to go through my favorite weapons in World of Warcraft Classic. Keep in mind that these are just my opinions, and that these lists are based on my taste in the visuals and the feeling of accomplishment that these items reward. Eventually, we'll look at swords, daggers, ranged weapons, and more, but for now, let's get right into it, starting with the staves. Number 10. Many Horde characters, especially casters, will tell you just how iconic this staff is to their early leveling experience. Though simple in design, the Crescent Staff is a reward from the main questline of the Horde's second dungeon, Wailing Caverns. Of course, the Staff of Orgrimmar comes first in one's leveling journey, but this staff, obtained from collecting the Gems of the Serpent Lords, is considerably more powerful, and is likely the first blue new Horde players will equip in their leveling journey. Those 777s are nice, the damage is decent, and its looks are unparalleled in those early 20s. Number 9. Similar to the Crescent Staff for Horde, the Staff of Westfall is often the first blue item that many Alliance players obtain. It's a reward from the epic Defias Brotherhood quest chain, spanning the zones around Stormwind and concluding in the Dead Mines, the first dungeon that most players have traditionally experienced. This staff, though admittedly simple in design, feels like a just reward for us adventurers who uncovered the secrets of that rogue organization of former stonemasons, stormed their base, and took out their leader in order to protect our beloved kingdom. And it's for that reason that I've included it here at number 9. Number 8. There's not much to say about this one. I just love the design of the staff holding up an encircled magic flame. Actually, there are a few staves like this, such as the Staff of Metanoia, for example. So really, number 8 could be any of those. It's really just a cool looking staff in my opinion, and it's one that I hope I get to rock on an alt someday. Number 7. The only non-caster staff on this list, the Wardens Staff is a unique and widely sought after staff for any and every feral tank in Classic. Though simple in design, the stats and the simple fact that it can be used all the way from level 43 through Naxxramas by those big lovable bears is reason enough in my book to give it my personal seal of approval. It's an interesting staff with great utility for one of my favorite classes in World of Warcraft. Number 6. This epic staff, crackling with arcane power, is a mage's wet dream. A drop from Golemeg the Loot Giver in Molten Core, this staff exudes an aura of absolute domination, hence its name. When I first saw someone walking around Ironforge with this staff back in vanilla, I remember thinking how amazing it looked. And now that I'm experiencing Molten Core with my guild over on Mankrik, I can say that this was a much sought after item. Until we got Mageblade drops like 4 weeks in a row, that is. In short, it's a cool looking staff with great stats that MC Raiders all love. Number 5. Though not yet available in Classic, releasing with Zul'Gurub later this year, the Will of Arlok has got, in my opinion, one of the coolest designs of any staff in the game. The head of this staff is a freaking cobra. What more is there to say about it? The looks aren't the only awesome thing about it though. It's got great stats for healers, especially druids, with tons of spirit and plus healing for those fights that just drag on. What's more, it can possibly be obtained once every 3 days, since ZG is on a shorter reset timer than the other raids in Classic. Oh, and did I mention it's a freaking snake staff? Live out your Jafar RP fantasies, healers. Number 4. Heading into the final stretch of my list here, we have the one epic that I really wanted to get back in the day. As you might know from seeing some of my other top 5 lists, Skull-Elements is, by far, my favorite dungeon in Classic. From the final boss, Darkmaster Gandling, this epic staff drops. The Headmasters Charge is fairly simple in design, especially compared to the epic-looking staves in the raids later on. But as a dungeon drop, it looks awesome. The horned skull with a spiny backbone just looks so sinister. Plus, it's got a unique on-use effect that buffs your party with intellect, a great boon for warlock and priests when a mage proves oh so elusive. Pretty much, it's just the cool looks and the epic quality of this dungeon drop. I love it. Number 3. Because it had to be up here, right? The legendary Great Staff of the Guardian, Atiesh, is possibly the most iconic staff in all Warcraft lore. It's right up there with Gorehowl and Frostmourne in its name recognition, and is the best weapon for priests, druids, warlocks, and mages, all the way up through Tier 4 content. Obtaining this birdie stick is no easy feat though. To collect it, one must be in a hardcore raiding guild that farms AQ40 and Naxxramas in order to collect the base, head, and all the splinters needed to assemble this bad boy. The work is definitely worth it though, as each class that can potentially wield this powerhouse gets its own variation, complete with different stats, abilities, and of course, those ribbon colors. As simple as the design is, Atiesh deserves a spot at any top weapons list due to its sheer badassness. And that's why it's here at number 3. But of course, that leaves 2 more staves to discuss. Number 2. This staff is epic. With one of the most badass models in all of Classic, and absolutely insane stats, it's hard to argue with how amazing the Staff of the Shadowflame is. First of all, it's got everything your caster could want. Intellect, 2% spell crit, and a whopping 84 plus damage and healing. You can expect that every mage, warlock, and more will be banking their DKP for this bad boy. The stats aren't everything though. This staff's model is one of the coolest in all of WoW. With a dragon skull atop a spine of sinister spikes, it instills fear into one's foes from a distance. Combine this with some Warlock Tier 2, and you'll look like one badass mother too. Sure, you could get the Shadowwing Focus Staff from the 3 Drake encounters of BWL, but that ear of corn on a stick just doesn't compare with this masterpiece of raid loot from the Lord of Blackrock himself. It is, most definitely, a fitting piece of loot for the vanquishers of Nefarian. And number 1. Was there ever any doubt? Benediction and Anathema are, without a doubt, my absolute favorite staves in World of Warcraft. The amazing healing golden color of Benediction is iconic of the healers in any Classic guild, and the sinister shadowy sparkles of Anathema give away a Shadow Priest from 10 miles away. Technically 2 staves, This priest pair is the epitome of an epic staff. The item required to unlock the quest chain, the Eye of Divinity, drops from the penultimate boss of the first raid of Classic, Molten Core's Majordomo encounter. After finally getting this item, possibly seeing 34 or more petrified leaves in the process, the priest can travel to Eris Havenfire in the Eastern Plaguelands to complete a quest unlike any other in Classic, the balance of light and shadow. Only after saving 50 peasants while not letting even 15 perish can one obtain the Shard of Nordrassil. And when the hopeful priest combines this fragment of the World Tree with both the Eye of Divinity and an Eye of Shadow, benediction, and thus also anathema, is finally awarded. Obtaining these powerful staves is a rite of passage for every priest in Classic. The feeling when an eye finally drops for your guild, the exhilarating rush of adrenaline when healing the peasants during the quest, and the feeling of sheer accomplishment when you finally combine those items and obtain that shiny staff at the end, all make for an unforgettable experience. Sure, there's the legendary Atiesh and the fantastic staff from Nefarian, which are both amazing weapons. But for me, and I'm sure many others, benediction and anathema reign supreme. And that's why it's my #1 pick for Classic Staves of World of Warcraft Classic. So, there you have it, my top 10 staves of World of Warcraft Classic. Obviously, there are tons more staves and even more weapons available in the game, but these are just my personal favorites. Classic is a huge game after all, and with so many players, we're bound to have different preferences. As always, I'd love to know which staves you think are the coolest, most interesting, or just your favorite in a different way. So feel free to leave a comment down below with your own opinion as well. But that's it for today. If you enjoyed this video, or felt like it inspired you to go out and get a magic staff of your own, feel free to subscribe and leave a comment down below. Follow me on Facebook and Twitter for updates on new content when it gets released, and consider checking out my written content over on Blogspot if you are into that sort of thing. Thanks again for watching, and as always, take it easy, guys.